The Dallas Cowboys stole a star pass rusher in round 2. We will break it down next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head over to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. On today's show, we're taking a look at the Dallas Cowboys' second-round pick, Donovan Ezeiruaku, the edge rusher from Boston College. We're going to dive into his fit in Matt Eberflus's defense. We'll talk about some potential outcomes and the ceiling here. But when you evaluated the prospect, Landon, what did you see on tape?
Just a guy that, look, when we're looking at defensive ends, when we're looking at edge players, you're looking, especially early, you're looking for people to check certain boxes, right? I think, we constantly are talking about, especially with edge players, the need to marry the athletic traits and the production, right? Mm-hmm. Man, Ezraku has got both, right? He's just a box checker in this sense. And that's where I think, it's kind of, he's an interesting profile to look at, especially now after the draft, because you kind of look at everything and you start to do kind of the math on it, and you're like, man, why wasn't this guy a first round pick? Like he just, like, there's so many guys that we've seen over the years that got picked in the first round that were edge rushers that didn't have all the things that Ezraku has. And it's like, it really is kind of surprising and shocking that he lasted as long as he did. So go ahead. Do you have something to add?
I was going to say the reason why, just there's going to be people wondering, why didn't he go in the first round? Because he's under 250 pounds and he's under 6'3", and he's not the most athlete. He's athletic, but he's not like a freak athlete, right? And a lot of times these guys that are sub 250 pounds that aren't freak athletes, they generally fall to round 2.
To be fair to him, he's 248 pounds, and
agree.
He's 6'2.5", so he's just barely under 6'3", just barely under 250. And when you have 34-inch arms, man, you might as well be 5'11" as far as I care. Like, that's fantastic. So let's get into it, right? Checks. First note: checks a lot of the prerequisite boxes for a first-round pass rusher. Production plus traits. Led the nation in tackles for loss. And then plus 34-inch yards and a sub 7.3 cone. Like, that alone, like just that line right there, like, that screams first round pass rusher, in some sense, right? Chop, rip, swim, spin, bull slip, euro. Like, he has a deep bench of moves. And I think I view hand fighting technique, and honestly, John Oning's the guy to talk about this. So I'm only just kind of, piggybacking, but my personal view on pass rushers is that there are kind of 3 levels of technique, right? There's understanding how to use a move, right? Like, very basic technique, right? Then there's guys who can have an established move and then have a counter off of that move, right? And that's normally what you're getting coming out of college, right? Is the good pass rushers, they have a move, and then the really nice ones, they have a move and a counter move. Ezraku is like kind of what I would call that third stage beyond that, where he has a move, he has counter moves, and then beyond that, he's playing the larger chess game throughout the game with the tackle, setting him up, understanding when he wants to throw his punches. There were so many times when you watch Ezraku's tape where the offensive lineman is like off balanced and like falling forward because Ezraku had figured out his punch, had timed his punch, waited for him to lunge, swam right past him, and is in the backfield before you can even say anything, right? Just really good at understanding the chess match aspect, understanding how to use his hands, the moves he needs to use. and then the combination of all of that to kind of keep the tackle guessing throughout the game. And that's why you see a lot like where there's so many of these games where, especially like if you're watching like some of the instead of the 22, you're watching just the game tape where you hear the announcer go, "There's Ezraku again," and it's like 3 minutes left to go in the game because he has just worn this tackle out. The tackle doesn't even know what's going on anymore. It's just chasing his tail at this point. We talked about size and strength is average. You mentioned that. This is definitely very much why he didn't necessarily go in the first round. He has a good leverage and tech in the run game, but he will get pushed around, with bigger people because, like you said, he's not 250 pounds even. But having said that, he is not defeated at contact. He has a contingency plan to keep going throughout the snap. You don't see him just get buried and then just kind of fall off. Like, he will fight his way through contact in the pass and the run game. He wants you to throw your punch so he can counter it and get past you. Like, there are times you see him like hesitating, just waiting for the punch to get thrown. And as soon as those hands come forward, you see him flashing his hips, moving around the guy. Most of his snaps came from a 2-point stance, but he really shined when he put his hand down in the dirt. So I don't worry about him putting his hand down in the dirt or needing to transition to that because you see it on tape and he does it well. But most of his snaps are in a 2-point stance, which may have its own set of usefulness at some point, maybe. I think the outlook for him is that he'll start out as a defensive pass rusher and then eventually develop into a full-time defensive end. To me, the kind of trajectory, maybe a little bit more advanced than this guy, is Will McDonald from the Jets.
Okay.
I think, another Whitehead guy, right? So you watch the tape and you're just super, super excited about what this guy can do, what he comes in at. He's not a complete player. He's certainly not a guy that you're putting out there for all the starter snaps at defensive end yet, but he's going to be able to immediately come in and impact the pass rush in a positive way, and really could be the kind of piece that takes this pass rush maybe to a new level.
I've got some just stuff from him as a prospect, and you tell me which one you care about the most. But 7th youngest edge in the class. He's only 21 and a half years old, so a very young player. He has the 3rd longest wingspan of any of the edge rushers drafted in the top 4 rounds this year. Him and Micah Williams have basically the exact same wingspan. We talk about Micah Williams being this long physical player. Ezraku's short, and but he's not. He doesn't have short arms. And I kind of like this build. I like the guys that are shorter, that have the long arms that can kind of reach around and knock balls out of the quarterback's hands. I like that a lot. Here's some statistical comps that I think are really interesting. If you look at, and I've got this database of all these edge rushers, all of the edge rushers since 1999 that had at least 20 tackles for a loss in a single season and had 16 sacks. That list includes Jared Allen, Willie Anderson, Chase Young, Harold Landry, Donovan Ezeiruaku, Whitney Merciless, Von Miller, Josh Allen. Those are all of your Power 5 edge rushers. Pretty good list there, right? How about this one, Landon? This one I think is even more impressive. If you look at the list of edge rushers who ran a sub 7-second 3-cone, Ezraku at a 6.94, and you look at the players that had at least 16 sacks in a single season, it's Von Miller, Ezraku, and the guy that I think is going to be compared the most to him, Harold Landry, who was a 2nd-round edge rusher from Boston College. That's it. So he just checks every box from what you want statistically. You look at the PFF stable numbers, they're all absolutely fantastic. It is kind of hard to believe that he fell to round 2 of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like, and it's not like it was such, like, if he was 5'11" and 248, like, maybe I could understand some of this, but it's like he checks everything else so cleanly. It's shocking to me that a 1/2 inch and 2 pounds are ultimately, and Marcus is not wrong. Like that's ultimately, I've looked everywhere and I've tried to see, where people are finding the knocks here. And they're like, yeah, maybe not quite as strong as you'd like him to be. And I'm like, guys, we were drafting guys like this in the top 5, like 4 or 5 years ago. Like what's going on? Like, so these kind of just to your point real quick, the Gumby guys who are smaller, they're harder to hit, right? It's harder for these bigger offensive tackles to hit these guys because they can dip around and they're just a smaller target. So yeah, a lot of traits that really fit a first rounder to me.
You know how much I love Jalen Walker coming out of Georgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ezraku is an inch and a half taller. He's 5 pounds heavier, and he's got like a 4-inch longer wingspan than what Jalen Walker had. And he's got way more production, but that's besides the point. Jalen Walker went top 15, right? This guy is a little bit older, but he's so much more productive. I love him. To me, this is a guy that should be drafted in the top 30 every year. Get him at 44 is an absolute steal. Landon, let's talk about his fit in the Cowboys defense with Micah Parsons, with Matt Eberflus. We will get we'll get into all of that next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when the demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down the closer that we get to tip-off, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. The all-in pricing means there's no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. It's so easy. It's so convenient. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We are breaking down Cowboys edge rusher Donovan Ezeiruaku, who we think at least the Cowboys stole in round 2. Let's talk about the fit with Dallas, because I think you and I were both concerned that maybe Matt Eberflus is only going to be targeting these long, powerful edge rushers. What's the plan for Donovan moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, look, we mentioned in the last section that defensive pass rusher is probably a role that he's going to be, headed to early on in his career. Let's just take a step back and look at this depth chart real quick, because I think that that's the thing that really kind of made me salivate a little bit. Is you look, going into the season, you felt pretty positive about, going into the draft, you felt pretty positive about where the pass rush was, right? Obviously, Parsons is the main feature there. You bring back Fowler as kind of a guy who could also potentially play kind of a defensive pass rusher role a little bit. If you want to get him in on some regular snaps, you obviously can as well. And then you've got a collection of young upside players who you're hoping are all kind of maturing at the same time, right? Sam Williams, who we were all really excited about last year, who tore his ACL probably right around this time last year, maybe.
Was it first day of practice? I thought it was maybe.
Of OTAs, or was it training camp?
I don't remember.
It
was in the
off season around here. So, So, anyways, at the time had put on some weight. So we were excited to see exactly, what kind of new version of Sam Williams we're getting. Marshawn Nealon, obviously a second-round pick last year, a guy that we really were looking forward to kind of developing. Had some injuries, but I think had a pretty good season overall. So you've already got like some young upside guys there. You brought in Dante Fowler, and now you've added Ezaraku into this group. And what this does is that it just kind of even further accentuates the waves of pass rushers that you're going to be able to send. I'll even add another element to it, right? I think that having two separate true kind of speed technique pass rushers in Ezaraku and Fowler is going to allow you to do some interesting stuff with Micah, right? It's going to allow you on third down to kind of put Fowler on one side, Ezaraku on the other, maybe, and then have Micah kind of play that spinner role that he played a little bit with Zimmer, or just maybe do some green dog stuff, against a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, which, that was obviously really a successful aspect of the Cowboys defense playing Daniels, is that Parsons was able to harass Daniels. And clearly there's something positive there that we should continue. So I just think that going into the draft, you felt solid about a pass rush that you had collected, a good collection of guys. It was deep. You had different variety of guys. Now you feel like the pass rush is strong enough that it could be the forefront of this team. Like, not the team, but maybe the defense for sure, right? And this is something that to build around on the defensive side of the ball. If you can get that kind of consistent pass rush going, there's still some stuff they need to do in the run game, because Ezraku is not going to necessarily kind of help you very much there. But if they can kind of figure out the personnel and the scheme aspect on early downs, and they can get these teams into third down and passing situations, they could be in real trouble, because this pass rush looks like it's going to be pretty ferocious.
Yeah, and I do want to point out, Ezraku was a really good run defender at Boston College.
Yeah.
But it's different coming into the NFL when you're going to be playing against much bigger offensive tackles. So I think you're right in saying that he's probably not going to help you in that phase, and that's okay. You're drafting him because of what he can do as a passer or pass rusher. One of the things that I was a little bit worried about looking at this pass rush group going into the draft is, outside of Micah, I'm not sure who gave you that kind of juice off the edge. I think Fowler can do it to a degree, but it's just different the way Fowler does it compared to some of these other guys. I think Ezraku is the guy that can actually get around the corner, bend, and get those high quality sacks, where maybe that's not Marshawn Nealon and Sam Williams' game. They're going to win with more straight athleticism. I think Ezraku can frankly, he might be the third most polished pass rusher already on this team outside of Micah and Fowler. Like he's got so many different ways that he can win. And that's why I won't be surprised if he's more impactful as a rookie than we generally see from a round 2 pick.
Oh yeah. And I would say more impactful than our last 2 round 2 defensive end picks, right? Is because
those guys were upside picks.
That's right. Nealon was coming from a smaller school, is a little bit of a jump in competition. Obviously a more explosive athlete. Sam Williams, same thing. Kind of an inexperienced player coming from the SEC, but an inexperienced player, an upside play, an athletic freak that you're trying to kind of get to develop a little bit. And that's what's so exciting, is that I think you're right, is that Ezraku, I think, comes in a little more polished, which means that I think that all 3 of these guys are kind of coming into their own all at the same time, hopefully, right? Nealon on his second year, Williams, after a year of working his body. So I do hope that there is the possibility that you're getting 3 young pass rushers ready to take their next step kind of all at the same time, because they're all on kind of slightly different timelines, but maybe arriving at the station at the same time.
We should mention Eberflus comes from the Rod Marinelli school of run defense, which is basically stop the run on the way to the quarterback a lot of times, right? It's up the field, it's waves. That's why I don't think Ezraku is going to have a problem fitting into the NFL.
I think that since he's left Marinelli, he's become more of a sound run game guy.
More than Marinelli.
More than Marinelli, because I do think that I think he will make sure that they're at least gap sound, whereas Marinelli's just like, go get the quarterback. So
but they still value these guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
That can quickly get up the field and create pressure. And that's where, even if it's as a rotational guy right away, I think he's going to have value.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe what this does is it allows you to play Nealon or Williams a little bit more on rundowns if you feel like they've advanced that part of their game, because they're bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger.
Well, and honestly, that's my hope. My hope is that Marshawn Nealon is a day 1 starter opposite of Micah Parsons. And then on third downs, it's Dante Fowler coming in to give you some juice. And they kind of slow roll Ezraku in there. They don't feel like they have to put him out there because they just don't have the bodies. I think that's how you develop pass rushers correctly. But he might be too good to keep off the field and only play him 15, 20 snaps a game. I won't be surprised if we get to October and it's like, hey, this guy might be our second best pass rusher. Let's make sure he's on the field a majority of the snaps.
Maybe just throw him out there. Look, what I would really love to see him do is I'd love for him to be the spinner. So imagine him attacking the front of the pocket with those wide arms. No quarterback's going to be able to escape. So, yeah, I think that you could just find ways to put him in there and deploy him, and he'll be useful.
All right, let's talk about the rest of the defensive line here and what we think Ezraku could turn into with the Dallas Cowboys. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Have you ever been traveling and wished that you could play your Xbox? Hey, well, now you can. With Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K, you can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. with EA Play included, and you are ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25, or my favorite game, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. It's as easy as you stream your favorite TV shows. There's a bunch of times where I'm traveling and I would love to jump on and play a couple games of Call of Duty, but I don't want the hassle of packing up my Xbox. Now I don't have to. I can just bring my Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K, plug in, and I am ready to go. Head over to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves and the news never stops. Hosts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Landon, let's talk about the hope here, the outlook. What do we expect Ezraku to become here in the NFL? He's a round 2 edge rusher. I'm sure nobody's expecting Micah Parsons, but what's the high-end upside here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he could be a guy who comes in and potentially gives you, 5 or 6 sacks as a rookie, which is, that's a lot for a rookie pass rusher. You don't see that kind of production right away usually. It's because it is kind of a learning curve. But for a guy like this who has kind of an advanced skill set, he's got the length, he's got the understanding of how to use his body, he's got the kind of Gumby, torsion to his body that he can get around punches. I think if they put him in the right situation, and again, it really helps to come onto a team like the Cowboys, right, where he isn't necessarily going to be required to come out and step onto the field to produce right away. Like, they're not going to be reliant on him to be the pass rush, right? Micah Parsons is still the man, and Fowler is likely still number 2 as far as like juice in the pass rush. So they can slow play him as to his speed to kind of get him in an appropriate amount based on how he kind of develops. But I, just knowing what I've seen on tape, I imagine that won't take very long. That I think he will be able to be a useful player in the pass rush right away. The thing that's so great about the defensive line room right now is that you've got it's almost like how we talk about we want to assemble a wide receiver room, right? You want to like have a group like a basketball team, right? Mm-hmm. Like a bunch of different body types. That's what they have right now. They've got everything from a Micah Parsons, to a Peyton Turner in this room. So I do think that, as they are problem solving for individual matchups, you'll see these guys all kind of play different reps. If they need more of a bigger body on the outside, maybe you see Peyton Turner take a few more snaps than he normally would. If it's a passing situation where everything kind of spread out, maybe you're seeing more Ezraku in that game with his hand down in the dirt, and really getting after it. So I do think that the good thing for the Cowboys and for Ezraku is that they have the players to really be contouring to his level of development, and they can work around him as he kind of comes up to speed in different aspects of his game, and as he gets better, they can say, hey, you know what, we'll take 2 or 3 of Nealon's snaps and we'll give him to Ezraku and they can just start kind of slowly feeding him more snaps as he develops.
I was looking at like size comps, and again, Harold Landry, who's been with the Titans for years, is the obvious one. But I was looking at another pass rusher this morning that I think Cowboy fans should know well. This guy was 6'0", 2'7", so just under 6'3", same as Ezraku, 251 pounds coming out of college, with an 81-inch wingspan, very similar, and 33 3/4-inch arms, almost identical. Now, this guy fell out of the second round because he ran a slow 40-yard dash, but was very technically sound coming out of college. In terms of size and how they win, he is very, very similar to a young Demarcus Lawrence. Very similar.
Yeah, and Lawrence, famously ran a very slow 40 for what we all expected, and his 3-cone was like 7.27 or something.
7.4. I got it right here. 7.46. It was an awful 3-cone.
Terrible.
but he was able to win because of his hand usage, and his technique was so good right away. And as he played more in the NFL, he got better and better against the run, and that's kind of how he ended up making his living.
Yeah, I think part of the, like, it's interesting, right? I kind of, just to speak out of both sides of my mouth real quick, I think that what's interesting is that part of what is actually going to limit Ezraku's ability to be a every down defensive end is Micah Parsons, right? Is the fact that you don't want to play two sub 250-pound defensive ends at the same time, right? Like, so I think that there absolutely is a world where he is only 250 pounds, but is a solid run player. Like, that absolutely, I can easily see him going into that. But the question still remains, do you want to have two sub 250-pound defensive linemen on a 4-man line on early downs? So
it depends on how good he gets in the run game. Like Demarcus Lawrence gained 15, 20 pounds when he got in the NFL, and that became one of the best run defenders in the league.
I'll say you this. If Ezraku wanted to gain, let's say, 10 pounds, right? Like, get him at 258, right? Like, now we're talking, right? Now, if he could do that with keeping his same level of lateral movement, now you're talking about a guy I feel really comfortable playing on that strong side, because he does have the hand technique. He doesn't have a problem with playing off contact. He just needs the physical size to kind of hold up a little bit more out there. So, it all depends on how quickly he develops. But the great news about Ezraku, again, is that he's got a ton of stops along the way in which he's going to be playing the entire time he's developing.
Another quick comp before we go. D Ford, who played for the Chiefs, another one of these undersized guys from your
War Eagle
school, Auburn. Would be surprised if he has a similar career to that. We really like Ezraku. We think the Cowboys stole him in round 2. Cannot wait to see him on the field this week at mini camps, and then as we get closer to training camps. But that's it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Go check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. We'll talk about Savon Ravel on Friday's show. Make sure you tune in.